A Bad Road for Cats by Cynthia Rylant. Louie, Louis, where are you? The woman called it out again and again as she walked along Route 6, a bad road for cats. She had prayed he hadn't wandered this far, but it had been nearly 2 weeks, and still Louis hadn't come home. She stopped at a Shell station, striding up to the young man at the register. Her eyes snapped black and fiery as she spit the question at him. "Have you seen a cat?" The word cat came out hard as a rock. The young man straightened up. "No, ma'am. No cats around here. Somebody dropped off a mutt a couple nights ago, but a Mack truck got it yesterday about noon. Dog didn't have a chance." The woman's eyes pinched his. "I lost my cat, orange and white. If you see him, you'll be more careful of him than that dog. This is a bad road for cats." She marched towards the door. "I'll be back," she said, like a threat. And then the young man straightened up again as she went out. "Louie, Louis, where are you?" She was a very tall woman and skinny, her black hair long and shiny like an Indian's. She might have been a Cherokee, making her way along a river, alert and watchful, tracking. But Route 6 was no river. It was a trucker's road, lined with gas stations, motels, dairy bars, diners. A nasty road, smelling of diesel and rubber. The woman's name was Magda, and she was of French blood, not Indian. Magda was not old, but she carried herself as a very old and strong person might, with no fear of death, and with a clear sense of her right to the earth and a disdain for the ugliness of belching machines and concrete. Magda lived in a small house about 2 miles off Route 6. There, she worked at a loom, weaving wool gathered from the sheep she owned. Magda's husband was dead, and she had no children, only a cat named Louis. Dum, dum, dum. Magda's heart pounded as tank trucks roared by. Dum. The horn hurt her ears, making her feel sick inside, stealing some of her strength. 4 years before, Magda had found Louis at one of the gas stations on Route 6. She had been on her way home from her weekly trip to the grocery and had pulled in for a fill-up. As she stood inside the station in front of the cigarette machine, dropping in quarters, she felt warm fur against her leg and had given a start. Looking down, she'd seen an orange and white kitten. It had purred and meowed and pushed its nose into Magda's shoes. Smiling, Magda had picked up the kitten. Then she had seen the horror. Half of the kitten's tail was gone. What remained was bloody and scabbed, and the stump stuck straight out. Magda had carried the animal to one of the station attendants. "Whose kitten is this?" Her eyes drilled in the question. The attendant had shrugged his shoulders. "Nobody's, just a drop-off." Magda had moved closer to him. "What happened to its tail?" she asked, the words slow and clear. "Got caught in the door. Stupid cat. Was under everybody's feet. No wonder half its tail got whacked. Magda could not believe such a thing. And you offer it no help? She asked. Not my cat, he answered. Magda's face had blazed as she turned and stalked out the door with the kitten. A veterinarian mended what was left of the kitten's tail, and Magda named it Louis for her grandfather. Louis, Louis, where are you? Dum, dum. Another horn at her back. Magda wondered about her decision to walk Route 6 rather to drive it. She thought that on foot she might find Louis more easily, in a ditch, under some bushes, up a tree. They were even, she and Louis, if they were on foot. But the trucks were making her misery worse. Magda saw a dairy bar up ahead. She thought she would stop and rest. She would have some coffee and a slice of quiet away from the road. She walked across the wide gravel lot to the tiny walk-up window. Pictures of strawberry sundaes, spongy cakes, cones with curly peaks were plastered all over the building, drawing business from the road with big red words like chili. Magda barely glanced at the young girl working inside. All teenage girls looked alike to her. Coffee, she ordered. Black? Yes. Magda moved to one side and leaned against the building. The trucks were rolling out on the highway, but far away enough to give her time to regain a little strength. No horns, no smoke, no dirt, a little peace. She drank her coffee and thought about Louis when he was a kitten. Once he had leaped from her attic window, and she found him, stunned and shivering, on the hard gravel below. The veterinarian said Louis had broken a leg and was lucky to be alive. The kitten had stomped around in a cast for a few weeks. Magda drew funny faces on it to cheer him up. Louis loved white cheese, tall grass, and the skeins of wool Magda left laying around her loom. That's why she would miss him the most, she thought. If Louis never came back, an orange and white cat making the yarn fly under her loom. Magda finished her coffee, then turned to throw the empty cup in the trash. As she did, a little sign in the bottom corner of the window caught her eye. The words surrounded by dirty smudges. For sale cat. Magda caught her breath. She moved up to the window and this time looked squarely into the face of the girl. Are you selling a cat? She said quietly, but hard on cat. Not me. This boy, the girl answered, brushing her stringy hair back from her face. Where is he? Magda asked. That yellow house right off the road up there. Magda headed across the lot. She had to knock only once. The door opened, and standing there was a boy about 15. I saw your sign, Magda said. I'm interested in your cat. The boy did not answer. He looked at Magda's face with his wide blue eyes, and he grinned, showing a mouth of rotten and missing teeth. Magda felt a chill move over her. The cat, she repeated. You have one to sell? Is it orange and white? The boy stopped grinning. Without a word, he slammed the door in Magda's face. She was stunned. A strong woman like her To be so stunned by a boy, it shamed her. But again she knocked on the door, and very hard this time. No answer. What kind of a boy is this? Magda asked herself. A strange one, and she feared he had Louis. She had just raised her hand to knock a third time when the door opened. There, the boy stood with Louis in his arms. Again, Magda was stunned. Her cat was covered with oil and dirt. He was thin, and his head hung weakly. When he saw Magda, he seemed to use his last bit of strength to let go a pleading cry. The boy no longer was grinning. He held Louis close against him, forcefully stroking the cat's ears again and again. The boy's eyes were full of tears, his mouth twisted into sad protest. Magda wanted to leap for Louis, steal him, and run for home, but she knew better. This was an unusual boy. She must be careful. Magda put her hand into her pocket and pulled out a dollar bill. Enough? She asked, holding it up. The boy clutched the cat harder, his mouth puckering fiercely. Magda pulled out 2 more dollar bills. She held the money up, the question in her eyes. The boy relaxed his hold on Louis. He tilted his head to one side, as if considering Magda's offer. Then, in desperation, Magda pulled out a $20 bill. Enough? She almost screamed. The boy's head jerked upright. Then he grabbed all the bills with one hand and shoved Louis at Magda with the other. Magda cradled Louis in her arms, rubbing her cheek across his hand. Before walking away, she looked once more at the boy. He stood stiffly with the money clenched in his hand, tears running from his eyes and dripping off his face like rainwater. Magda took Louis home. She washed him and healed him, and for many days she was enraged at the strange boy who had sold her her own cat, nearly dead. When Louis was healthy, though, and his old fat self, playing games among the yarn beneath her loom, her rage grew smaller and smaller until finally she could forgive the strange boy. She came to feel sympathy for him, remembering his tears, and she wove some orange and white wool into a pattern, stuffed it with cotton, sewed 2 green button eyes and a small pink mouth onto it, and then attached a matching stub of a tail. She put the gift in a paper bag, and on her way to the grocery store one day, she dropped the bag in front of the boy's yellow house. Louis, where are you? Oh, that's okay, little guy. You're right here.